cross might be an understatement.
Finally, Labour MP Emily Thornberry has shown genuine rage about Israel's behaviour. What could possibly have finally made her snap? After all, for a year and a half, we've witnessed some of the worst crimes of our age being committed by the Israeli state with Western and indeed British complicity. The mass slaughter of civilians, including children, babies, the mass destruction of homes, hospitals, schools, the use of starvation, torture, rape. We could go on. What obscene atrocity has Israel possibly committed to finally send it over the edge? Let's listen.
If you don't mind, just clearing up something which arose from our trip, just to get it out of the way. Would you expect, Minister, if there was a visiting delegation of members of Parliament to the House of Commons, for the delegation to be videoed without their knowledge or consent?
If someone was visiting the House of Commons?
Yes.
Certainly not. I would think that'd be very unusual.
Or for it to be put onto Instagram and indeed briefed to, let's say, the Daily Telegraph in disparaging terms.
I'm not familiar with the details, but clearly if someone was visiting the House of Commons, we'd want to show them.
And it would be particularly bad, wouldn't it, if it was the Deputy Foreign Minister of Israel who would be videoed in the UK and for disparaging comments to be made about her evidence or her private meeting that she'd had, let's say, with us. Because the opposite has just happened to us. And a video of us at the Knesset meeting, the Deputy Foreign Minister, has been posted on Instagram. We understand that, certainly we had no knowledge that it was being videoed and assumed, of course, that it would never happen. And I have to say, I've just found out about it. And to say that I'm cross might be an understatement. There were many things said in the Knesset by many members of the Knesset that we found quite provocative and indeed, if I'm really honest, quite insulting. And the attitude of some of the members of the Knesset were remarkably rude. And we did our utmost to keep decorum at all times and to remain polite and restrained. But I do think this takes it to another level. And I would ask the Foreign Office to investigate this, please, and to find out why this has happened, who made the decision, and to ask them to take it down and to apologise.
So that's what it takes for Emily Thornberry to finally snap at Israel's behaviour. She feels personally embarrassed by an Israeli minister who filmed her without asking for permission. It's not the hideous war crimes and crimes against humanity which have provoked rage. It's her being the victim of bad etiquette. What was this secretly recorded video exactly?
What happens if there's elections tomorrow at the West Bank? Did you go there to talk to them? Why hasn't been an election there?
Well, I can give you the answers. The first is obviously that when there was an election and Hamas was elected and there was a rejection of that by the international community. Secondly, when there was a suggested election, there was a disagreement with Israel as to whether or not the people of East Jerusalem could vote.
The fact is that there's no elections because the day after Hamas is going to take control. And if we agree in any way to a two-state solution, or the Palestinian Authority is going to control Gaza, it's going to be at the hands of Hamas again. So the fact is that you're asking me to give Gaza again to Hamas. And when people come and tell us, oh, you need to do the two-state solution now, for us, it means, in reality, you give it to Hamas back. And that's something that we cannot accept.
So she went to Israel and then got walked all over by one of the countless fanatical Israeli ministers and allowed herself to be treated like a naughty child. Let's not forget how Emily Thornberry went on national television at the beginning of the genocide to legitimise Israeli war crimes in order to help out her then boss Keir Starmer after he backed Israel's right to impose a siege on the civilian population.
What is simple is that whatever actions are taken by a democracy, it has to be done in accordance with international law. And we have heard tonight from the President of the United States that he has been on the phone to Netanyahu, and both of them have agreed that democracies need to act in accordance with international law.
Pause there, if I may. Do you think cutting off food, water and electricity is within international law?
I think that Israel has an absolute right to defend itself against terrorism.
That's not the question I asked.
It is an answer to the question that you've asked, and I think it's an appropriate one at this time.
Why won't you answer whether you think it's in line with international law or not?
Because I've tried to answer, and I've tried to say that we've already heard from your previous guest about what might be happening on a day-to-day basis. So we're now on day 4. And so we hear that there are troops massing on the border. There may well be an incursion. Immediately before an incursion, then, as the permanent representative have said, that it might be appropriate in those circumstances for there to be the sort of action that we've heard about. And then the invasion afterwards. I don't know, because at the moment we're in the middle of a hot war, and Israel is in the middle of defending itself, and we have to stand with Israel, just like we would expect people to stand with us if we were the victims of terrorism as well.
Do you know what's even more humiliating? Despite that sickening performance, after the election, Keir Starmer didn't even give her a job.
And to say that I'm cross might be an understatement.
Emily Thornberry has shown more public rage at Israel over her being personally slighted than any of the atrocities Israel has committed against the Palestinian people. Gruesome stuff, and tells you all you need to know.